What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is a fantastic day because today we are driving a 2012 Lexus Lfa, one of the coolest cars ever created and one of the arguably best sounding cars in the entire world. So we're going to do a little walk around, then go into the interior, talk about the interior features, and then show you exactly what it is like to drive this beautiful, naturally aspirated V10 Lexus. They only made 500 of these things worldwide between 2011 and 2012. Base price of $375,000, which is a crazy amount for a Lexus, considering the Ferrari 599 at the time with a V12 at a base price of $310,000. Nevertheless, this became an instant legend, and with the Nürburgring package, which we'll talk more about in the rest of this video, it actually set the Nürburgring record for the year. Now take a look at this key. It's actually kind of lame for a $400,000 car. Carbon fiber unit that you have to insert into the ignition and then click the power button to turn the engine on. We've got a separate little fob for the lock and unlock. Let's go ahead onto the interior of the car to pop the hood open to show you what that is like. Now, the door handles are in an interesting location on the top of the car to help improve aerodynamics so we don't have anything interrupting the side. Interestingly enough, we do have a manual keyhole right here in case the key fob dies. So we'll go ahead and open that up, then reach below here to open up the engine. So the Lexus Lfa is powered by a 4.8 liter naturally aspirated V10. The engine was built in conjunction with Yamaha, the musical instruments company, to create the best sounding V10 engine of all time. They took all they knew from sound engineering and harmonics and combined it with Lexus's division, actually Toyota, who was developing V10 engines for their Formula One cars at the time, to create an absolute masterpiece. Now you'll notice, one, I'm holding the hood upright. That's because the hood prop rod is actually disconnected from the hood. You have to pull this out. It's carbon fiber and then stick it in. It's actually kind of difficult. You'll notice the entire hood is actually carbon fiber itself. But check this out. The valve covers are actually lower down than the tops of the front wheels. That lowers the center of gravity of the car immensely. The center of gravity of the car is actually only 17.8 inches above the ground, which is very impressive for a 47-inch tall vehicle. Go ahead and close the hood. Some power figures for you: 553 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 happens in 3.6 seconds and a top speed of 202 miles an hour. Now, not everyone loves the looks of the Lexus Lfa. I'm actually a huge fan of it. It kind of has this reminiscence of a 1990s Supra, but with more angles. The headlights aren't the best looking, but the overall shape, it's just iconic in its design. Come around to the side. A lot of people are confused, thinking it's a mid-engine car because of the vents down here below the door like you'd get in a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. That is mid-engine, but that's actually for additional brake cooling, and there's a radiator in the back as well. We've got an adjustable rear spoiler that comes up at 50 miles an hour. This beautiful triangular exhaust that was tuned by Yamaha, and actually they had an amazing commercial where they broke a wine glass just by revving it. That's how high pitch it is. One of the best sounding, if not the best sounding engines of all time. All right, let's go ahead and hop in to the Lfa, shall we? Once again, door handle is up here. Now, I will say some of the controls are a little bit more flimsy than you're used to in a car of this price range. The door handle, for instance, kind of moves up and down and doesn't feel like it's the best quality, although we do have very high quality leather, carbon fiber throughout. I love that you can see the carbon fiber monocoque right here. Absolutely gorgeous. Now let's go ahead and hop into the interior of the Lfa. Now, to adjust the seat controls, we've got something very unique. Instead of a traditional kind of toggle right here, we've actually got these flaps that push this forward, the seat goes forward, push it back, the seat goes back, lift it up for up and down for down. And then this one controls the backrest. We've also got heated seat controls in 3 different stages right there. Let's go ahead and shut the door and turn the car on. Go ahead and grab the key first. So in order to turn the Lexus LFA on, you actually have to insert this key into the slot here, turn it all the way to the right. Then if the car is in drive, you have to pull both paddles to put it into neutral first, and then you click the engine start button. And on fires that 4.8 liter naturally aspirated V10. All right, so the seatbelt is also pretty unique. It's very, very thick, and that's because it actually has a little airbag in it for additional safety. Pretty cool technology that I haven't seen in any car other than new generation Ford SUVs are starting to use them. So one of the coolest features of the Lexus LFA has to be the digital tachometer. They made it fully digital for one reason, not to look super cool, but because the car revs so fast. In fact, it takes only 0.6 seconds to rev from idle, which is about 1,000 RPMs right now, to 9,000 RPMs. 0.6 seconds. How ridiculous is that? But what's even cooler is what the screen actually looks like. So if we put the car into sport mode, check this out, the screen actually turns white with a red line. Now, to the right of that is a control not a lot of people know about, and that actually changes the shift speed. So we can change the shift speed all the way to the maximum setting to make it as quick as possible, or the slowest setting, which doesn't make any sense. I don't know why we would do that. Now we've got some of the smallest, flimsiest little, actually they're pretty sturdy, turning indicators I've ever seen. These are literally less than 1/4 inch thick. Same with the windshield wipers. We've got beautiful metallic paddles for the 6-speed single clutch automated manual gearbox. We'll talk more about that when we take this thing out onto the road. I'm gonna put the climate control on because I'm actually roasting in here. So to control the infotainment screen, I was figuring out how to use the climate control because it's not self-explanatory whatsoever. You use this little toggle here, which is actually quite frustrating. Lexus tried this for a while and then kind of gave up on the newer models. To select, go back, you use these buttons here. Brings up some, well, pretty underwhelming graphics, but there was a 10-year development cycle on this car, so it was being produced. It started its life in 2000. It wasn't produced until 2011 and 2012, but I imagine some of the stuff that they developed was some older technology. So to go over to climate, we click that inwards, and then you've got to kind of wiggle your finger really gently to get to these different settings, and this is up and down on the climate control to make it hotter or colder, and this is up and down for the other side. Overall, the infotainment system is pretty darn hard to use, but this is one of the greatest sports cars of all time, one of the rawest to drive. So does that matter? Not really whatsoever. Just wanted to point it out for you. You've got a small glove box here that's lockable. There you go, got some tools inside here. Actually, wow, we've got a USB and auxiliary port. That's impressive. Interesting dash layout with this dual kind of height to it, carbon fiber throughout. We've also got some storage space back here. Now, rear visibility is actually fantastic. The rear wing goes to a perfect height where you can actually see out the entirety of the back of the car. Now, looking over my shoulder, I've got good visibility, and over my other shoulder, it's actually pretty decent. All right, guys, it is finally now time to drive the Lexus LFA. Now, interestingly enough, to put the car in reverse, typically there'd be a reverse button over here, or maybe you pull the left paddle, but that doesn't work. The reverse button is actually all the way over to the side here. You pull that backwards, and then it puts it into reverse. Not a terrible backup camera for 2012, although it doesn't have any guidelines, so it's a bit hard to tell what's going on. It also doesn't look like it's perfectly even. I'm not quite sure what it's showing there in the rear bumper, but you can't actually put it into first gear from reverse. You got to put it into neutral again and then into first. So it is a sequential gearbox. This is a single clutch automated manual transmission. It's not a dual clutch system. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So we'll go into first gear now. We are in normal mode. There are 4 different driving modes. We've got auto, sport, normal, and wet. we're gonna go ahead and go into sport mode that brings up a fancier looking tachometer. Such a beautiful, beautiful layout. I love the white. First, and off we go. Actually, for a single clutch transmission vehicle, it doesn't lurch off the standstill. It's pretty easy to use. There's a wild cat there. Interesting. Love the little transmission chatter there. You hear a lot of different noises inside of the LFA. It truly makes you feel like you are driving something special. Even at just 1/10 throttle, it sounds amazing. That 4.8 liter V10 that revs all the way up to 9,000 RPMs. How incredible is that? Steering is electronically power assisted to not take any power away from that 552 horsepower engine. It's actually not all that communicative. It's nice and direct, it changes directions really quickly, but you don't actually feel any bumps or any communication between the tires, the road, and the steering wheel itself, which is a little bit surprising for something that was basically born on the racetrack. The actuation of the paddles themselves is fantastic. Some of the best feeling paddles in the business. They're actually extremely thin, but they're kind of leather wrapped on the side that just feels really, really nice in your hands. They stay mounted to the steering column, so you always know where they are. They're not attached to the steering wheel itself. They could be a little bit longer, but not necessary. Traction control button, which we're not going to turn off right now because the tires are actually pretty bald on this thing, is over to the left. Then we've got a light switch here. Interestingly enough, one of the craziest buttons in the entire car is the location of the rear wing. As you notice now, looking in the rear view mirror, I can't see the rear wing. That's because it's down. The wing button is actually behind the seat here. See if I can feel for it. Nope. Maybe use my other arm. So putting the rear wing up manually once you're already driving the car is pretty much impossible. Now it automatically pops up at 50 miles an hour, so you don't necessarily need to do that, but the car looks so much more aggressive and cool with the wing deployed. Got these tiny little turning indicators that actually feel pretty sturdy, especially for how thin they are, perhaps weight savings. Go ahead and make a right turn here. Now the steering wheel feels fantastic in your hands. These leather wrapped steering wheel portions at 9 and 3, perfect grips, absolutely love that. All right, let's listen to that V10, shall we? The wing just kicked up there. Oh my God, that is tremendous. Oh, this is one of the best sounding cars I've ever driven in my entire life. Now, the reason that they chose a single clutch gearbox instead of a double clutch gearbox is the chief engineer for LFA wanted it to be a more analog manual experience, feel kind of like the shifts of a manual transmission vehicle. And it does that really, really well, actually. All right, steering feel is nice. All right, hop on the gas again. Oh my God. Oh, that is so fantastic. This might actually be the best sounding car I've ever driven. Oh, wow. It is so nice to drive too. Holy moly. Extraordinarily low center of gravity, near perfect 50-50 weight distribution. The brakes are phenomenal. These seats are some of the most comfortable bucket seats, if not the most comfortable bucket seats I've ever experienced. Hold you in place extraordinarily well, yet at the same time, they're not breaking your back. Little bit of lurching there, but nothing too bad. Now you can actually control, I haven't hit red line yet because we're not in the best environment for it, but you can actually control the RPM at which the flashing indicator to shift gears comes up on the display, which is a really cool customizable feature that happens if you push right on the D-pad And then you have a series of controls here. Let's go to rev indicator, on, and look at that. You can choose what RPM you want it to go at. Go ahead and put the screen back. I love how that moves over to the side. That is just the coolest thing. Oh, those shifts are just awesome. Now, it doesn't have manually adjustable springs. It doesn't have electronically controlled dampers. It's in its permanent setting. It's a little bit rough, but honestly, because of these seats, they're so plush yet supportive, it's pretty comfortable. Oh, that is fantastic. Oh, this has to be in the top 3, top 5 best cars I've ever driven. I am absolutely in love with the LFA, my gosh. And you completely forget about any of the downsides. Yeah, the interior is not the best, but oh my gosh, that sound is so fantastic. The steering is so nice, the brakes are so good, the suspension is so nice. There's no body roll. That really, none of that matters whatsoever. All right, let's take a listen to that engine a little bit more. Go ahead and pull both paddles to put it in neutral. This is gonna annoy people, but do I care? No. Gosh, that is a sound. That is a sound. Woo! So the craziest part is to think that this actually isn't the ultimate edition of the Lexus LFA. They actually had limited to 50 units, the Lexus LFA Nürburgring edition. At the time, it was $70,000 more. Now they command tremendously more value because of its rarity and exclusivity compared to the normal LFA. So what do you get with an LFA Nürburgring edition? Well, you get retuned suspension, you get faster gear shifts by 0.05 seconds. You also get a full training day and an overnight stay at the Nürburgring with a professional teaching you how to drive your Lexus LFA Nürburgring edition on the Nürburgring. How cool is that? Now, the Nürburgring edition LFA in 2011 set the Nürburgring record at 7 minutes and 14 seconds. For reference, that was 10 seconds faster than the Porsche GT2 RS. That is an unbelievable thing. 10 seconds faster than Porsche, who is the king of the ring and has been for a very long time, was beaten by Lexus out of nowhere with the LFA. That's part of what happens when you develop a car at the Nürburgring, but they're not alone in developing Nürburgring cars, so that is unbelievable. And it honestly doesn't surprise me in the slightest with driving this car. The Nürburgring edition does come with some front cool canards, as well as a stationary rear wing for more downforce, faster shifts, different wheels, but other than that, it is pretty much the same car. Overall, I am absolutely in love with the Lexus LFA. It is an absolute joy and dream to drive. So with that, I'm gonna let you, well, listen to that V10 a couple more times. I'll shut up and enjoy this beauty. Oh my gosh, what a privilege to be able to drive this car. Once again, special thanks to Wheels Boutique and Anarchy Wheels for making this review possible. Make sure to follow both of them on Instagram at Wheels Boutique and at Anarchy Wheels. This is a downright blast. Wow. See you next video.